An entire hunter fleet was immobilized by a force that shouldn't exist. Not a weapon, not an empire, just one human standing beside something the galaxy calls royal, only because it doesn't understand it. What happened next broke every rule about power, size, and survival. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from. Which city, which world? Subscribe to the channel to help this universe grow if stories like this matter to you. Now, let's start the story. Kepri 9 didn't care if you lived or died. The ochre canyons just kept grinding dust into your lungs, and the gravity kept pulling everything down a fraction harder than Earth ever did. Caleb Ward figured that was fair. Everything felt heavier out here anyway. He kicked through another pile of salvage, metal screaming against rock. 38 years old, back bent from habit more than weight, hands thick from work that never seemed to matter. The scanner in his palm beeped lazily at scrap worth maybe 20 credits. Not even enough for decent coffee. Nobody waiting at home anyway, he muttered to the empty canyon. His voice came out rust-dry. That's when the scanner spiked red. Caleb froze. Containment field signatures? Military grade? The kind of hardware that cost more than his entire ship. Out here in the middle of absolutely nowhere? On a planet abandoned by everyone with sense? He should have walked away. Any sane person would have walked away. Instead, Caleb checked his oxygen reserve, grabbed the plasma cutter from his belt, and started climbing. Because what else was he going to do? Go back to his hab unit and stare at the walls? Talk to ghosts? The ridge overlooked a natural basin of black volcanic glass. And there, surrounded by 6 figures in hunter-gray armor, was something that made Caleb's brain stutter. A woman. No, not quite. Alien, definitely, but the resemblance was terrifying. She was enormous, easily 11 feet tall even lying down, bound by shimmering gravitational restraints that pulsed with sickly purple light. Her skin was ivory gold, shot through with faint luminescent veins that flickered like dying stars. Silver hair spread across black stone like spilled mercury, but it was her face that stopped his breath. Painfully, impossibly human, large eyes that tracked the hunters with controlled desperation, a straight nose, a firm mouth pressed tight against pain. Beautiful in the way glaciers are beautiful, remote and untouchable. One of the hunters adjusted something on a wrist display. The restraints tightened. Her breath hitched, making the ground vibrate slightly, but she didn't scream. She was trying not to give them the satisfaction. Caleb recognized that look. He'd seen it once before in his brother's eyes, trapped under 3 tons of rock, while corporate goons argued about excavation costs. His hand tightened on the plasma cutter. Sure, he whispered to himself. Why not? Not like I had plans. Before he could talk himself out of it, Caleb Ward started mapping the old extraction tunnels in his head, looking for the one thing salvagers knew better than anyone: how to make expensive things explode. The old mining charges were still active. 40 years abandoned, half corroded, completely unstable. Perfect. Caleb moved through the tunnels like a ghost, years of salvage work making him quiet where quiet mattered. His heart hammered against his ribs, screaming at him to stop, to think, to not be this monumentally stupid. I know, he whispered back to his own fear. I know it's stupid. I know. But his hands kept moving, wiring the charges, setting the timer, calculating blast radius versus hunter position versus that massive woman who absolutely should not exist. Through a crack in the stone, he watched them prepare some kind of medical extraction rig. Not for healing, for harvesting. He'd seen those before, in the gray markets of Dust Haven, for selling rare biological specimens to collectors who didn't ask questions. His brother's hand, disappearing under rubble. The foreman's voice, cold and clinical. Cost-benefit doesn't justify extended rescue operations. Caleb's jaw locked. Not this time. He triggered the charges. The canyon didn't just explode, it screamed. Secondary explosions rippled through ancient extraction tunnels, turning stone into shrapnel. The hunters scattered, shouting coordinates Caleb couldn't hear over the roar of collapsing rock. He ran, sprinted across open ground while plasma bolts carved the air around him, each shot close enough to feel the heat through his suit. Physics was a game of angles, and he'd always been good at math when it mattered. The gravitational restraints flickered as their generator took damage. The giant woman's eyes found Caleb across 50 meters of chaos. Something passed between them. Recognition, desperation, a question. Caleb didn't slow down. "Come on." She understood intention, if not language. Her whole body tensed, and suddenly Caleb felt heavy, like gravity itself had focused on him. Not crushing, protective. The plasma bolt that should have taken his head bent slightly, missing by centimeters. Together, impossibly, they moved. Caleb led, using every salvager's trick he knew. She followed, each footstep making the ground shake, drawing fire away from him by sheer size. A hunter tried to block their path. The woman's hand came down. Not quite a blow, more like gravity itself pressed the armored figure into the stone. The hunter didn't get up. They reached the canyon's edge, just as the main support gave way. Behind them, the basin collapsed into the old mining network, swallowing hunters, equipment, and any chance of organized pursuit. Caleb stumbled into a side canyon, lungs burning, legs screaming. The woman followed, moving with surprising grace despite her injuries. When they finally stopped in a natural cave formation, she sank down against the wall, breathing hard enough to make dust dance in the air. Caleb's scanner beeped. Tracker signal. Active. Somewhere on her restraints. Oh, hell. But when he looked up at her face, she was watching him with something he hadn't seen in years. Gratitude. Real, unguarded gratitude. She tried to mimic his earlier gesture. A small nod. A rough approximation of thank you in whatever body language crossed species. Caleb felt something crack in his chest. Something that had been frozen for 3 years. "Yeah," he managed. "We're definitely both going to die now." She didn't understand the words, but she heard the tone. And somehow, impossibly, she smiled. Communication turned out to be harder than explosions. Caleb had a basic translator chip, salvaged from a dead prospector's skull 3 months back. It could handle 14 major galactic languages. Her language wasn't one of them. She spoke in what sounded like music with pauses built in, like the silence between notes mattered as much as the sound. He spoke in direct, clipped sentences full of Earth sarcasm that probably translated as verbal noise. But they managed. Gestures, context, desperation. The cave was barely big enough for her. She had to hunch, silver hair brushing the ceiling, those luminescent veins in her skin providing the only light. Caleb kept catching himself staring at the sheer wrongness of the scale. She could palm his entire head like a basketball. "Okay," he said, picking up 3 rocks. He held them next to himself, then added a 4th, smaller rock. "So you're like 3 of me, and half, 3.5 Caleb's tall." She watched this with what might have been amusement or confusion. Hard to tell across species. Right, cool, totally normal situation. He dropped the rocks. "You got a name?" She seemed to understand that one. Her hand moved to her chest, then she made a sound like wind through crystal. "Air Hill." "Ariel?" She nodded, patient, then pointed at him, questioning. Caleb Ward." He tapped his chest. "Professional idiot, apparent giant rescuer." The translator caught fragments. She repeated, "Caleb" in that musical voice, making it sound like something worth more than it was. Then she did something that made his stomach drop. She gestured at herself, then upward, made a crown shape with her hands, spoke words the translator finally caught. Size, meaning, born height. Caleb's mind went blank, then raced, then crashed into a wall of understanding he really didn't want. "Wait, back up! Your height means what exactly?" She struggled with the translator, frustration crossing her too human face. Finally, she managed, "Royal, Lineage. Symbol. A pause. I did not choose. Oh, hell. Caleb sat down hard. Oh, hell no. I saved royalty? Like actual, crown-wearing, galaxy-important royalty? She tried to make herself smaller, an impossible task. I never wanted... No. People like me don't save queens. We save, I don't know, space accountants, mid-level bureaucrats, not... He gestured at all of her. Whatever you are. For the first time, she looked genuinely hurt, small, despite being 11 feet of alien biology. I am Airhill, she said quietly. Just Airhill, please. The translator caught his scanner beeping, tracker signal getting stronger, ships in orbit triangulating. Caleb looked at her, really looked. Past the size, past the impossible beauty, past the revelation that he'd accidentally gotten himself involved in something galaxies above his pay grade. She was scared, trying not to show it. But scared, just like Tommy had been, under all that rock. Right, Caleb said, standing up. Fine, just Airhill it is. He started checking his gear. But for the record, this is the worst Tuesday I've had in years. She didn't understand Tuesday, but she understood tone. You are not leaving me? The translator made it half question, half wonder. Caleb wanted to. God, he wanted to. Run back to his ship, forget this ever happened, go back to safely drinking himself to sleep. Instead, he checked the plasma cutter's charge. Nah. Already committed to the stupidity. Might as well see it through. Through the cave entrance, running lights appeared in the night sky. Pursuit ships, at least 6. Caleb looked at Airhill. You ever try to, I don't know, crouch down, make yourself less visible? She tried, failed spectacularly. Her knees hit the cave ceiling. Yeah, Caleb sighed. Figured, okay, plan B. What is plan B? Haven't thought of it yet. Give me a minute. Outside, the ships began to descend, searchlights turning night into artificial day. Caleb's scanner showed the tracker signal pulsing from her restraints, steady as a heartbeat, screaming their location to anyone listening. Stay stubborn, he muttered to himself. Old saying from somewhere. Just stay stubborn. Airhill watched him with those two large, too knowing eyes, and despite everything, Caleb found himself smiling. 3.5 Calebs, he said. We're about to make very expensive people very angry. They'd been hiding for 3 days in a network of ancient lava tubes. Caleb's rations were running low. Airhill hadn't eaten at all. She claimed her species could go weeks, but he saw the way her luminescent veins dimmed. The translator was getting better, or they were getting better at using it, probably both. Why did you run? Caleb asked during the 3rd night, both of them exhausted, listening for pursuit that hadn't come yet. Airhill's massive form shifted in the darkness, making stone whisper, because going back means never being touched without fear again. The translator struggled with the nuance, but Caleb heard it anyway. Loneliness that went bone deep. Nobody's ever just... He gestured vaguely. Treated you normal. Normal. She made a sound that might have been laughter or tears. I have had devotion, worship, careful handling like sacred glass. A pause. Never friendship. Never someone who looks at me and sees me. Caleb thought about that. Thought about 3 years of talking to ghosts, of being nobody, going nowhere, mattering to no one. Yeah, he said quietly. I get that. They sat in shared silence. Then, because silence made him remember things he'd rather forget, Caleb started humming. Old song, pre-space. His mom used to play it on bad days. Airhill went very still. What is that? Just a song. Human thing. We make noise and patterns when we're sad. He shrugged. Doesn't fix anything, but it helps. Teach me. So there, in a cave on a dead planet, running from hunters who'd killed them both, Caleb taught an alien queen, a song about hurt and pain, and somehow finding beauty in the breaking. She learned slowly, her musical voice turning the melody into something else, something better. When she reached the part about being hurt so long that pain felt like home, she stopped. Her hand came down, massive and gentle, palm up. An offering, an invitation. Caleb looked at that hand, could fit his entire body in it, could be crushed without thought. He put his hand in hers, her fingers closed, careful as cathedral architecture, warm like sunlight on metal. He felt her pulse, slow and strong, vibrating up his arm, felt the slight gravitational pull that surrounded her, like standing too close to something fundamental. "Nobody ever touched me without fear," she whispered. "You are so small. I could hurt you without meaning to." "Yeah, well," Caleb's throat was tight. "I could hurt you too, just different ways." "How?" "Could leave, could betray you, could die on you." He looked up at her face, shadowed and strange and somehow familiar. Humans are real good at hurting people by accident. She was quiet for a long time. Then, "The hurt of abandonment is worse than the hurt of gravity." Something in Caleb's chest cracked wider. "Tell me about your family," Airhill said. "Please, I want to understand. Small world thinking." So Caleb talked. About Earth, about Tommy, about how his brother used to collect rocks, stupid kid obsessed with geology. About the mine, about the 37 minutes it took his brother to die while corporate drones calculated cost-benefit. About how Caleb came out here to forget, how it hadn't worked. Airhill listened like every word mattered, like he mattered. "You carry his death," she said finally. "Like I carry my height. Burden we never chose." "Yeah, but you chose to save me." Her hand tightened slightly, still gentle. "You did not have to. Couldn't leave you there." Caleb's voice cracked. "Already left one person to die. Couldn't do it twice." "Caleb," she said his name like a prayer. "You did not kill your brother. You survived him. There is difference." "Doesn't feel different." "No." Her thumb, the size of his forearm, brushed his knuckles. "It does not, but truth does not care about feelings." Outside, a ship passed overhead, searchlights painting the rocks. Caleb should have moved, should have hidden. Instead, he sat there with his hand in hers, learning what comfort felt like when it came from someone who understood carrying weight you never asked for. "Teach me more songs," Airhill said. "Please. I want to know what humans sound like when they choose hope." So Caleb taught her. And for a little while, in that dark cave, they forgot about hunters and crowns and all the reasons this was impossible. They just were, together, small world and tall person, finding something rare. Trust. The hunters made their first mistake on day 5. They got predictable. Caleb had been watching their search patterns from a ridge outcropping, counting ships, timing sweeps. Military precision was great until it became a pattern, and patterns could be exploited. "They'll converge here," he told Airhill, marking an old mining hub on his salvaged map. "Natural choke point. They know we need water eventually." And she'd learned to read his tone. When he sounded too calm, he was planning something stupid. "And there's still a functional magrail loader there, the kind they use to launch ore containers into orbit." He grinned. "Also works on hunter ships if you time it right." "Caleb, that is extremely dangerous." "Yeah, well, so is dying of thirst. Pick your poison." The plan was simple, which meant it was probably going to go sideways. Caleb would rig the loader to activate on proximity. Airhill would draw the hunters into range. Basic physics did the rest. "Humans learn this at 10 years old," Caleb muttered, checking calculations for the 40th time. Trajectory, velocity, impact force. Basic stuff, really. Airhill watched him work with what he'd learned to recognize as affection. "You take joy in cleverness." Beats taking joy in not dying, lower bar. When the hunters came, They came confident. 6 ships in tight formation, scanning for heat signatures, life signs, anything remotely organic. They found Airhill standing in the open, luminescent veins bright in the darkness. Impossible to miss. The lead ship dropped low, probably planning extraction. Professional. Careful. Caleb triggered the loader. 3 tons of steel and magnetic acceleration met ship hull at approximately Mach 4. The physics was beautiful. The explosion was prettier. The other ships scattered, confused, trying to locate the threat. Airhill moved. Her gravitational field pulled one ship slightly off course, just enough to clip a canyon wall. Not enough to kill, Caleb noted. She was still pulling punches. 2 more ships tried to flank. Caleb had rigged secondary charges. More explosions, more chaos. Yeah! Caleb was laughing now, high on adrenaline and improbable success. Basic physics, alien. Humans been doing this since we figured out rocks fall down. For maybe 30 seconds, it felt like winning. Then Caleb's scanner went crazy. Not the tracker signal. Something else. Transmission burst. Outgoing. From Airhill's restraints, still partially attached. His blood went cold. No. Airhill saw his face. What? The tracker wasn't tracking. Caleb's voice sounded distant in his own ears. It was transmitting. Every move we made. Every location. They've been mapping our patterns. Understanding hit her like gravity. The victory. Was them letting us think we were clever. Letting us tire ourselves out. Learn our tactics. Caleb wanted to throw something. We just showed them everything we've got. The remaining ships didn't retreat. They regrouped, methodical, patient. From orbit, 3 heavy cruisers appeared on scan. Capital ships, the kind with crews in the hundreds. Oh hell, Caleb whispered. A transmission came through, clear and cold. Caleb Ward, we know you're listening. We know what you saved. We know what she's worth. The voice was familiar. Impossible, but familiar. Surrender the Vastrai air and you walk away. You have my word. Or keep running and we vaporize the next settlement we find until you comply. Caleb's hand shook. He knew that voice, from before. From the mines. Cray? His voice cracked. Cray Vesson? A pause, then almost gentle. Hello, Ward. Been a while. Airhill looked at Caleb, saw something break in his face. You know this person? Yeah. Caleb's voice was ash. He worked with my brother. Was there the day Tommy died. The transmission continued. You've got 12 hours to decide. After that, people start dying for your choices. Just like old times, right, Ward? You deciding who lives and who's not worth the effort? The comm went dead. Caleb stood there, victory turning to poison in his mouth, watching ships take positions around them like pieces on a board they'd already lost. Airhill's hand found his shoulder, gentle despite her size. Caleb, this is not your fault, isn't it? He couldn't look at her. I thought I was being clever, thought I could protect you, but I'm just... He gestured helplessly. I'm just a salvager who got someone else killed. Again. Above them, the ships waited. Patient, professional. 12 hours. And then the galaxy would burn until Caleb made the choice he'd failed to make 3 years ago. Save everyone else. Or save the one person who'd made him feel like he mattered. The transmission came again at hour 6. Visual this time. Cray Vesson looked older, harder. Burn scars ran down the left side of his face, probably from the mine collapse. He wore hunter gray now, expensive gear, the kind that said he'd climbed up from the bottom by stepping on backs. You look like hell, Ward. Caleb stared at the screen. You sold out. Sold out to the same corporations that killed Tommy. I survived. Cray's voice was flat. You gave up. There's a difference. You're hunting people now, for profit. I'm hunting assets. There's a market. I fill it. Cray leaned forward. You know what your problem always was, Ward. You thought caring mattered. Thought if you just gave enough of a damn, the universe would reward you. And yours, Caleb said quietly, is that you stopped caring entirely. Cray smiled. Ugly. I had a brother too. Did you know that? Died in the same collapse. Section C, Northern Tunnel. You were Section D. Caleb's world tilted. What? Marcus Vesson, 23 years old, geology specialist, loved his job. Cray's voice didn't change. They left him too. Said rescue wasn't cost-effective. I was there, Ward. I heard the same speech you did. Then why? Because I learned. Cray cut him off. Learned that loyalty to dead people is just suicide with extra steps. I sold what I knew about the company's safety violations. Made enough to buy my way off planet. Made enough to never be that helpless again. You became what killed him. I became what survives. Cray's eyes found Airhill in the background. That alien princess of yours? She's worth more than you and I will make in 10 lifetimes. Medical research alone, her DNA's priceless. The genetic dynasty she represents? She's a living treasury. Airhill spoke for the first time. I am a person. Your property, Cray said simply. Worth billions. And Ward here is getting people killed to play hero with something he can't possibly protect. The transmission cut. Caleb stood there shaking, not from fear, from rage, from the horrible understanding that Cray was right about one thing. Caleb was repeating the same pattern, trying to save someone, failing, watching the cost pile up in lives. Caleb. Airhill's voice was soft. Look at me. He couldn't. Please. When he finally turned, she was kneeling, bringing her face close to his level. Those luminescent veins pulsed with something like pain. I need to tell you something, she said, about my power, about why I ran. Airhill. When I was 16, there was a boy, not royal, just someone who saw me as Airhill. We were careful, secret. Her voice cracked. One day, I was frightened. Politics, pressure, my mother demanding I accept a breeding arrangement. He tried to comfort me, held me close. She stopped, breathed. My gravitational field responds to emotion, fear, love. It amplifies. Her hands twisted together. I did not mean to. I would never. But he was so close and I was so scared and you killed him. His name was Theron. Tears tracked down her face, luminescent like her veins. I crushed him against me without meaning to. His last words were my name. Not accusation. Just surprise. Caleb felt something in him shatter. Why tell me this now? Because you deserve truth. Because I am dangerous to people I care about. Because... Her voice broke. Because I care about you, Caleb Ward. And I am terrified that my caring will kill you too. The silence stretched between them, heavy, painful. Then teach me, Caleb heard himself say. Teach me not to die when you're scared. Airhill blinked. What? You said it yourself. The field responds to emotion, so teach me the signals. When you're afraid, what changes? What do I watch for? He moved closer, suicidally close. I'm not leaving you, so if staying means learning how to survive your gravity, then teach me. You are insane. Yeah, well. Caleb's smile was broken glass. Already established that when I saved you. Bit late to back out now. He will kill civilians, Airhill whispered. Cray. Your friend. He's not my friend. He's what I could have become if I'd chosen different. Caleb looked at her, really looked. You asked me once why I saved you. Want the truth? She nodded. Because I saw you trying not to scream, trying to keep dignity when everyone treated you like an object. And I thought... His throat closed. I thought maybe if I saved someone this time, it'd hurt less. That Tommy would forgive me for being alive when he wasn't. And does it? Hurt less? No, Caleb admitted. But it hurts different. Better different. Like maybe there's a point to still being here. Airhill's massive hand cupped his face, gentle as prayer. You did not kill your brother Caleb, any more than I killed Theron. We survived them. That is not the same as murder. Kira feels the same? Yes, she agreed. It does. Outside, ships moved into position. 6 hours left. And somewhere above, Cray Vesson waited to prove that caring got you killed. But Caleb had already decided, already committed. He'd failed Tommy. He wouldn't fail her, even if it killed him, especially if it killed him. Hour 11, 1 hour left before Cray started killing civilians. Caleb had run the math 17 different ways. Every scenario ended with people dead. The only variable was how many and who. You have to surrender, he said finally. Airhill went very still. No. Listen to me. No. Her voice was stone. I listened to duty my entire life. Listened to people tell me what I was worth, what I represented, what I owed to others. I will not listen now. People are going to die. People are always dying. For the first time, Airhill's voice rose, making the cave resonate. My people died for generations, hunted for our size, our DNA, our symbolic value. Theron died because I was born wrong. Your brother died because corporations valued ore over lives. She leaned close, eyes blazing. The dying never stops, Caleb. Not if I surrender. Not if I comply. It just changes who's doing the killing. But you think Cray will stop if I go? You think the hunting ends? Her laugh was bitter music. I am a precedent, living proof that royalty can be captured. Every ruler in my line becomes a target the moment I'm taken. Then what do we do? Caleb's voice cracked. Just let him kill whoever he wants. We refuse to play the game where our existence justifies murder. Airhill's hand found his face again. We choose. We act. We survive together or we die together. But we do not let cruel men dictate our worth. You don't understand. I can't. Caleb pulled away. I can't watch more people die because of my choices. I can't carry that. I'm not strong enough. Then lean on me. You're the one they're hunting. And you're the one who saved me. Airhill's voice softened, became something fragile. Caleb Ward, you asked why I will not surrender. Want truth? He nodded, not trusting his voice. Because for the first time in my life someone sees me. Not the crown, not the symbol, not the genetic prize. She smiled, sad and beautiful. You see, Airhill, you sing with me. You teach me what it means to be chosen, not inherited. That's not enough reason to... It is every reason. Her forehead touched his, carefully, gravity pulling them together like planets. You are worth more than you know, more than your failures, more than you're dead. You are worth not giving up on. Caleb felt something break in his chest, not shattering, opening. I left him, he whispered. Tommy. The rocks were falling and I ran and I left him and I heard him screaming my name and I just survived. Airhill finished. You survived. That is not the same as abandonment. He died alone. And you have died every day since, slowly, in a different way. Her thumb brushed his cheek, catching tears he didn't know he'd shed. But you saved me, Caleb. You chose to act when you could have walked away. That is not the action of a man who has given up. I don't know how to save you. I don't know how to beat Cray. I don't... Then we learn together. Airhill pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I have power I barely control. You have cleverness and stubbornness. We have 12 hours of knowing each other, and somehow that feels like more than all my years of court life. The transmission alert chimed. Final warning. Caleb looked at it, looked at Airhill, looked at his own shaking hands. If we do this, he said slowly, if we refuse to surrender, he'll come for us. All of it. Every ship, every weapon. Yes. We'll probably die. Yes. And even if we win, you lose your title, your status, everything you were born to be. Airhill smiled, and it was the most honest expression he'd ever seen. I was born to be someone's symbol, their property, their breeding stock. She took his hand, engulfing it in hers. I would rather die as myself with someone who chose me for me than live forever as everyone else's definition. That's the worst trade in history. Or the best. She squeezed gently. You said humans make noise when they're sad. What noise do they make when they choose hope? Despite everything, Caleb laughed, raw, broken, real. Usually something stupid, typically involving explosions. Then let us be stupid together. The final hour ticked away, and for the first time since Tommy died, Caleb Ward chose to fight instead of flee. Not because he thought he could win, but because someone who mattered had refused to let him surrender. Dusthaven Station orbited Kepri 9 like a rusty crown. Frontier transit hub, half-legal salvage market, home to 3,000 people who asked no questions. Cray's deadline came and went. The first civilian ship exploded exactly 63 minutes later. Transport hauler, 47 souls. The message was clear: comply or watch the body count rise. We need to get to Dusthaven, Caleb said, studying the orbital map. There's old mining equipment there, including a gravitational stabilizer core they called GLaDOS. He looked at Airhill. Techs thought they were funny. What does this core do? Theoretically, generates a controlled gravitational field for deep mining operations. Caleb's smile was sharp. Practically, if you overloaded an atmosphere, it creates a localized gravity well strong enough to hold a space station in place. That would kill whoever activated it. Yeah, probably. He met her eyes, unless someone with gravitational powers was standing right next to them. Someone who could redirect the field, control it, make it do something it was never designed to do. Understanding dawned. You want to trap them. I want to give you a chance to be more than property. Caleb's voice was steady, but it requires you to do something impossibly dangerous. More dangerous than loving someone who makes me want to lose control? The question hung between them, raw, honest. Caleb, Airhill said softly, I need to tell you something before we do this, before we possibly die. Okay. I'm going to renounce my title, publicly, via open transmission. She saw his shock. The only reason they hunt me is because I represent continuity, royal lineage, legitimacy. If I declare myself outside the succession, I become worthless to them. Just another alien. But I choose freedom over duty. Her voice carried absolute certainty. I choose being Airhill over being a symbol. I choose. She cupped his face in both massive hands. I choose you, Caleb Ward, small world human, who saved me not because of what I was, but because of who I am. Caleb felt his throat close. That's insane. You jumped into Hunter Crossfire to save a stranger. I do not think you get to judge what is insane. She smiled. Will you help me write the speech? They worked through the night. Caleb, who'd never written anything more formal than salvage reports. Airhill, who'd been trained in protocol since birth. Together they crafted something neither could have done alone. At dawn, Airhill broadcast on every channel, every ship in orbit, every station watching. I am Airhill Vastarai, born height royal of the 7th lineage. Her voice was music and thunder. I renounce all claims to succession. I reject the bonds of blood status. I declare myself outside the chain of inheritance. Silence across the channels. Shocked. Absolute. I have found something more valuable than crowns. Someone who sees me not as symbol but as person. A human. Small and stubborn and impossibly brave. Her eyes found Caleb off camera. I choose him over kingdoms. I choose freedom over duty. I choose love over law. The transmission cut. For maybe 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then Cray's voice, tight with something that might have been respect or might have been rage. You just made yourself worthless, Your Highness. No lineage, no value, no point. Exactly, Airhill said, so I can kill you with zero consequences. You could try. Caleb stepped into frame. Or you could walk away. Let two people who just want to be nobody go be nobody together. Cray laughed, hard, bitter. I had a chance to walk away once, Ward, after the mines, after Marcus. You know what I learned? What? That walking away is how you end up with nothing. At least revenge gives you purpose. The transmission shifted, ships moving. You want to die for her? Fine. I'll grant you that, but you're dying on my terms. Worst plan I ever had, Caleb muttered, checking the GLaDOS core specs. And the bar is really low. Airhill knelt beside him. I am frightened. Me too. But I am also happy. She took his hand. To have chosen, to have met you, to have learned what it means to be seen. Yeah, well, Caleb's voice was rough. Let's try to stay alive long enough to enjoy it. I'm told mortality is inconvenient. Ships descended. Hunter gray armor, professional formation. Cray Vesson leading them, because of course, he'd want to do this personally. Caleb looked at Airhill, 11 feet of alien biology who'd given up everything for the chance to be herself. Stay stubborn, he said. She smiled. Together, May. And as ships began to land, as hunters deployed around the station, as the trap closed with professional precision, two impossible people stood side by side, ready to prove that choosing each other was worth any cost, even if the cost was everything. The GLaDOS core sat in Dusthaven's old mining bay like a monument to obsolete technology. 20 meters of gravitational manipulation hardware, dormant for 40 years. Barely stable even when it was new. Now it was Caleb's only weapon. Cray's forces deployed with military precision. 40 hunters. 6 ships. Enough firepower to level the station twice over. Last chance, Ward, Cray's voice echoed across the bay. Surrender, or everyone here dies. Your choice, just like the mines. Caleb's hands were steady on the core's manual activation panel. Funny, he'd expected them to shake. You know what the difference is? Caleb called back. Between you and me? Enlighten me. I'm not trying to survive this. I'm trying to save someone worth saving. He looked at Airhill, positioned 10 meters away, her luminescent veins already pulsing with gravitational buildup. And I'm not asking her to be anything except herself. Touching. Cray raised his weapon. Kill them both. Caleb slammed the activation lever. The core didn't just power on, it screamed. Gravitational force ripped outward in a sphere, pulling everything toward a central point. Equipment, debris, air itself becoming thick and heavy. And Caleb, standing at ground zero, felt his skeleton start to compress. This was the part he hadn't told Airhill. The manual activation required someone to maintain physical contact with the core. The gravitational stress would kill them in approximately 90 seconds. He'd known that going in. Caleb! Airhill's scream split the air. Stay there! His voice was already strained, ribs creaking. You need to redirect it. The field. Make it hold the station, not destroy it. You will die. Yeah. He laughed, blood in his mouth. But you won't, and 3,000 people won't. That's pretty good math. She moved anyway, impossibly fast for something her size. No! Caleb shouted. If you come closer, you'll be in the kill zone. Then I die with you. Tears streaming. I will not lose someone else I love because I was too afraid of my own power. Love. She'd said love. The gravity intensified. Caleb felt his vision darkening, bones grinding. Through the pain, he saw Cray trying to retreat, saw hunters struggling against the field, saw ships fighting to escape the pull, saw his brother's hand disappearing under rock. Not this time. This time I hold on. Ah, Caleb screamed, locking his grip on the activation lever. And Airhill reached him. Her hand closed on his shoulder, pulling him against her massive form. Her gravitational field flared, not fighting the core but joining it, amplifying it, reshaping it. The crushing force that should have killed them both transformed, became something else, became an embrace. Airhill's power, driven by love and terror and absolute refusal to let go, spread through the entire station, not crushing, holding, supporting, like invisible hands cradling fragile glass. The station, which should have torn apart under the stress, held. The hunters, caught in the field, couldn't move but weren't crushed. The ships trying to flee found themselves suspended in mid-thrust. Everything stopped. Everything held. Caleb looked up at Airhill's face inches away, her eyes blazing with luminescence, veins so bright they hurt to look at. "You came for me," he whispered. "Always." Her voice shook. "You are worth saving, Caleb Ward. You are worth more than you know." Through the haze of pain and impossible physics, Caleb saw Cray, on his knees, weapon dropped, staring at them with something that might have been envy, or might have been grief. "You actually did it," Cray said quietly. "You chose each other over surviving, and somehow, you're both still here." "Yeah, well," Caleb's vision was fading. "Humans are real good at being too stubborn to die." Airhill's field intensified one final time. She pulled every ounce of power she had, burning through regenerative capacity, burning through reserves she'd never tapped, burning through everything to hold this impossible moment. Hold the station, hold Caleb, hold the choice they'd made. The core began to fail, controlled collapse, gravitational field fading to nothing. Everything settled, gently, carefully, like being set down by someone who loved you. Caleb collapsed. Airhill caught him, cradled him against her chest. He could feel her heartbeat, slow and deep, feel her breathing like storm winds, feel her shaking. "Did we win?" he managed. "I do not know." She looked around at the frozen hunters, at Cray kneeling in shock, at the station still standing. "I do not care. We are alive. Together. That feels like victory." Cray stood slowly, looked at them, looked at his hunters. "Stand down," he said quietly. "Sir?" "I said stand down." Cray's voice was ash. "They won. Not by force. By being too damn stubborn to accept that caring gets you killed." He looked at Caleb. "Congratulations, Ward. You proved me wrong. Hope it was worth it." He walked away, didn't look back. The hunters followed. The ships lifted off, and in the silence after, Caleb and Airhill stayed exactly where they were, holding each other, having survived. Caleb woke up 3 days later with 17 broken bones, internal bleeding, and what the station medic cheerfully called catastrophic structural damage. "You should be dead," the medic said. "Yeah, I get that a lot." Airhill hadn't left his side. She sat in the corner of the medical bay, too large for the furniture, veins dim now, exhausted in a way that went beyond physical. "Hey," Caleb said. She looked up, smiled, cried. "I thought I killed you. I thought my power, my field, I thought—" "You saved me." His voice was rough. "Saved everyone. Turned a weapon into a shield. I burned myself out doing it." She showed him her hands. The luminescent veins were dark, nearly invisible. "I cannot regenerate now. I am mortal, truly mortal. I will age. I will die. I am no longer—" "Your Airhill," Caleb interrupted. "That's all you ever needed to be." She laughed. "Broken. Beautiful. I gave up immortality for a human who can barely walk. Worst trade in history. Or the best." She moved closer, careful of his injuries. "The Vosterai court has declared me dead, officially. Cray transmitted that I was killed in the confrontation. He lied. For us." He did. Perhaps he remembered what it felt like to have a brother, to lose one, to wish he had chosen differently. Airhill's massive hand found his, gentle as starlight. "We are free, Caleb, truly free. Nobody hunting us, nobody claiming ownership. Just two people who chose each other." Caleb thought about that. about being nobody, about 3 years of hiding from ghosts. "You know what's funny?" he said. "What?" "I came out here to forget, to be nobody who mattered to no one." He squeezed her hand. "And then I met you and remembered that being somebody to one person is better than being nobody to everyone." Very philosophical for someone with punctured lungs. "Pain makes me profound." He winced, shifting slightly. "On the bright side, I've got an excuse not to carry heavy things now, so that's something." Airhill laughed. Actually laughed. The sound filled the medical bay like music. Outside the window, ships came and went. Dusthaven continued its rough business. The galaxy turned, uncaring, vast. "What do we do now?" Airhill asked. "I don't know." Caleb looked at her, really looked, past the size, past the dimmed veins, past everything that had happened. "What do you want to do?" "I want," she thought. "I want to learn more human songs. I want to see your Earth. I want to know what it means to choose every day, to wake up and decide who to be instead of being born into it." That's a pretty good list. "What do you want?" Caleb was quiet for a long time. Then, "I want to stop running from Tommy, stop using his death as an excuse not to live." He met her eyes. "I want to try, actually try, at being someone worth the second chance you gave me." "You were always worth it, Caleb." "Yeah, well, still learning to believe that." Airhill leaned down, forehead to his, careful of his injuries. "Then we learn together. We choose together. We become who we want to be together." "Even though I'm broken?" "Especially because you are broken." She smiled. "I am mortal now, fragile. We match. 3.5 Calebs of fragile?" "Exactly." They stayed like that, small world human and former royal alien, both broken, both free. Both choosing each other every moment they kept breathing. The medic came back eventually, kicked Airhill out so Caleb could rest. Before she left, she whispered, "You did not save me because I was royal. You saved me because I was a person who needed saving. That is the most valuable thing anyone has ever given me." "Yeah, well," Caleb's smile was soft. "You saved me right back, from being nobody who mattered to no one. Fair trade." She kissed his forehead, gentle, careful, and left. Caleb lay there, broken ribs aching, everything hurting, more alive than he'd felt in 3 years. Outside, the galaxy turned. Vast, uncaring, full of people who measured worth in wealth, in power, in genetic value. But somewhere on a rusty frontier station, 2 people who'd given up everything learned a simple truth. Humanity wasn't strength, wasn't technology, wasn't conquest. Humanity was the absolute refusal to leave someone alone on the ground. The stubborn, illogical, beautifully broken choice to care when caring cost everything. To see worth where others saw utility. To hold on when any sane species would let go. The galaxy would never know the name of the human who turned down a crown. But Airhill knew. And that was enough. That was everything. In the end, the universe didn't change because a human defied hunters or because a giant alien renounced a crown. It changed because 2 broken beings chose each other anyway. Proving that humanity isn't about scale, power, or destiny, but about stubbornly deciding that someone matters, even when the math says they shouldn't. So here's the uncomfortable question this story leaves behind. When survival demands that you stop caring, what part of yourself are you really saving? How much of your identity is built from the moments you chose safety over presence? And if the cost of being human is vulnerability, what does it say about us when we spend our lives trying to avoid it? Because maybe being human was never about winning. Maybe it's about refusing to abandon someone on the ground, even if you're small, even if you're scared, even if you're hilariously underqualified for the task, especially then. If this story stayed with you until the end, write the word stubborn in the comments, not because the algorithm wants it, but because stubborn care is what kept this universe from collapsing. Tell us what city you're watching from. It's wild to think this story crossed light years just to reach you. If this felt like more than entertainment, consider subscribing and liking, not as a click, but as joining a small corner of the galaxy where caring is still allowed. Share this story with someone who thinks they're too small to matter. And when the final card appears, stay. The next story is waiting, and it might just find you the same way this one did. After all, in an infinite universe, choosing to care is the most rebellious act there is.